In this video, I'm going to show you how I tube feed my puppy. This video is not intended to replace the advice of a veterinarian. You should only tube feed at the direction and discretion of your veterinarian's advice.
Hello everyone. You're either watching this video because you need to learn how to care for a singleton puppy, or you find yourself in a position where you're going to have to tube feed your puppy. We need to prepare a few things before we are going to tube feed our puppy. So the first thing we're going to need is we're going to set up a little station, and you're going to have to make your formula. So in this video, I'm using Espalac. There are some really good goat milk recipes out there. This is being filmed at the time of COVID, so shopping isn't that easy. So we're just going to go with the Espalac. It's pretty simple. There's good instructions on the back. It's 2 parts water to 1 part powder, and I did boil the water. I've mixed it in a jar, and it's important that we stir the formula. Don't put it in a blender. Don't put a lid on it and shake it. Don't put a whisk in it. You don't want to be adding unnecessary bubbles to your formula. So you're just going to stir it until there's no lumps in there. And then you're going to test it the same way that you would test a baby bottle. I just take the spoon, I drop a bit of formula onto my wrist, and it feels that it's just a little bit slightly warmer than room temperature, and that's perfect. Now, you're going to need a marker. You're going to need a feeding tube. Sorry, it's right here. And I got this from my veterinarian. They come in different sizes, so talk to your veterinarian about what is the right size for your puppy. This end, the thick end, will be going on the end of the syringe, and this is the end that goes in the puppy. But we have to measure the puppy on the tube first, so that when we're feeding the tube in, we know that we have gone to the right depth. We don't want to be too shallow. We don't want to be forcing it past the end of the puppy's tummy. So we're going to measure the puppy. So let's get our supplies all organized and go get a puppy, and I'll show you how to measure it. Okay, we're going to get ready to measure the feeding tube for the puppy. So I'm just going to grab Mr. Solo here, our singleton puppy. And what you need to do is you need to measure from the last rib to the mouth. And you'll take the end and you'll put it right there at the last rib. Okay, right there. And then, even if they're wiggly, you're gonna measure all the way to the mouth. So that's where I'm gonna put my mark. That way, when I'm feeding the tube in, I don't go too far and I'm not too shallow.
As an added precaution, I just like to always double check the length of the tube.
So let's check the temperature of the formula. I think it's perfect. We're going to put our feeding tube on the syringe. It just goes on pretty simple. Now, you're probably wondering, how much do I feed my puppy?
To answer that question, you're going to have to weigh your puppy. I weighed this puppy on a digital scale, and the puppy's weight was about 10.5 ounces. So the general rule for newborn puppies is to feed them 1 ml per ounce of body weight.
So we just put our tube in the formula. Okay, so I'm going to push all the air out of the syringe and the tube. There we go. All right, so we're ready to feed our puppy. I do recommend that you wash your hands. You don't have to wear gloves, but I am just wearing gloves for added precaution. What you want to make sure that you're doing is that you want to get it to the left side when you're feeding the tube in. Now, everybody gets scared about this. Of course you're scared. Of course you're going to worry about getting it in the trachea. We have some ways of checking to make sure that it's not in the trachea. One is that if you were feeding the tube in and it stopped about that far, that would be just behind the shoulder. So that would mean that it's probably in the lungs because it can't get past. So if you kind of hit a dead end and you don't have it all the way in yet, then you know that you're in the lungs. and you're just going to pull the tube out and you're going to try again. If you put the tube in and you can make it all the way to your mark, which in this case will be right there, then you know you're getting to the end of the tummy. If your puppy's crying while you're tube feeding, you're definitely not in the lungs. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the tube, and I'm going to take my thumb and my index finger and put it on either side of the puppy's mouth because that makes it open. And then I'm going to start feeding it down the left side. He's being very cooperative. We're almost at our mark. Nice and slow. Another thing you could do is if you didn't have it attached to the syringe is you could put the other end in some water, and if you saw some bubbles in it, you'd know that you were in the lungs. Okay, so we're at the mark now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold it there so that he doesn't spit it out. And I'm just going to put it in. And you're just going to very quickly pull the tube out.
When you're done tube feeding, you're going to want to burp your puppy. So you can do this by stroking them on the back or gently tapping them on the back. Following feeding, your puppy's going to need to go pee and poop. If the mother's not licking them, then it's your job to stimulate them. Be sure to watch our video about stimulating a puppy to go poop and pee.